Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here with the Green Film Festival of San Francisco, presented by SF Indie Fest. We had a real fun time programming this year's festival as we ran into films from around the world. And you just had a chance to see the really wonderful documentary, Dreaming an Island. And we're lucky enough to have filmmaker Andrea Pellerani. Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you
Uh,
very much for having me.
yeah, it's a really beautiful and kind of thought-provoking film, so it was neat to run across. Um, could you kind of tell us, like, how did you kind of first discover or run across this story?
Okay, it's quite anecdotal. I know it's an anecdote. No, I was looking already for sort of ghost towns around the world. So I was researching, and there is one very famous outside of Nagasaki, which is Gunganjima. Sorry about my pronunciation. And there they shot also a scene of Skyfall. But it's a completely abandoned island since the 70s. And I was couch surfing there, so with a Japanese person hosting me. And he told me, look, there is another island around here. It's just 1 hour away from here. My brother lives there. I actually had seen Ikeshima before, pictures. I knew about it. It wasn't at that moment really on my mind because thing happened. And he told me, look, my brother could host you, and you could go and visit this other island if you really are that interested in researching these ghost towns. Go there. And then it was love at first sight, because it was the first place I saw where it's on the edge of being something without people, but there are people. And all of a sudden I realized this is a lot more interesting to film that an empty space, which you should and have to re-evoke yourself or with somebody, but it's all in the thought of it. You cannot really film more than it's really just abandoned porn if you go to ghost towns. And there so I fell in love with this island.
Right. Well, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that kind of phrase, "rune porn," has become kind of popular in recent years, and I think your film transcends that in some really great ways. What when you were researching these different places before you ran across this island, were you planning on making a film, or was it more just your own personal curiosity and photographs? Like, what was your creative process to decide to make a documentary?
No, that was already kind of my base idea was these empty places, these ghost towns, cities. I think they kind of foretelling of a future that might be, or I think there's the recent ones. I'm not telling about medieval things that you can easily find in Europe, but these places really are like, okay, this could be tomorrow here if we disappear.
Right.
And that's a little bit in my, I don't know, I'm a bit scared about the future, let's say it so. And I thought, okay, let's find a place where we can imagine a lot of things and not just give out solutions or point at problems, but just try to imagine how it is without us. And I think it puts us into perspective that we are not so important. That's also a little bit what I liked it to distance myself from us, human race, from us in general people, and to show that we are not that important, because if we leave, that's what remains. It's not so great. And nature just takes it back. And that's also a bit a premise in the film, that we often, I think often, how would I say, nature doesn't really care. It just does its thing, and we are part of it. So that's also tricky, because then you could think, oh, everything we do is natural. Have you ever think of that?
Yeah.
If you believe that we evolved in nature, so we are natural, so whatever we do, it's kind of natural.
Right.
you wouldn't say a nest made, a bird's nest made with plastic straw. It's still a nest, right?
Right.
So someone, an alien looking from far away, looks at what we are doing and just says, okay, that's what that kind of thing does. So it's natural because it doesn't make, maybe it doesn't really make the difference between us and the other living organism. So I just wanted to have this distance and to show that, yeah, okay, nature does a thing, we do our thing. And on the island, we really, they try to live their very normal lives. But the setting is not normal at all. So it's always a bit different, a bit going somewhere else, a bit dreamlike, if you want, because the setting is never quite right. Okay, you're just going to shop, but hey, look at around, it's empty. Why are you still there? Or the two kids going to school. Of course, they go to school. That's great what they do for these kids. But then you see two big buildings for these two kids. It's all a bit on. I think it all makes you think a little bit.
Yeah, I think we all as human beings, we have a ego, of we overvalue our own importance in the landscape of the larger world, and that these sorts of things kind of help put you kind of recenter the brain in that way. Have you had a chance to share your film with the residents yet? Have they have a chance to watch it in person?
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah. What do you think their reactions might be? Or
no, I don't think they're going to. I don't think I'm going to understand what their reaction. I really have no idea what there could be.
Yeah.
Because also through the film, we really try to watch it more as someone also from outside, as tourists. I think that's also kind of one of the points of view in the film, is that we don't try to get too much into it, because also out of respect. I always make the example when the question arises, why didn't you interview the kids, the two children that are there? Of course, I thought about it. It was a possibility, but seeing their reality, I would just have had sort of mean questions for them. I mean, they already kind of have to manage with that reality. Somehow they probably have their own way of coping with being two brothers on a lonely island with mostly elderly people, retired people, no other kids to socialize with, if not once a week when they maybe go away. And I think all my question would have been very provoking for them, but not right for the kids, because when I leave, they still have to be there. But I could ask, how do you feel? Don't you feel lonely? Isn't it strange? And then what would I get from that? Just a reply that probably doesn't even surprise us. But I would put them in a I think in a not nice situation.
Yeah, it's an I hadn't actually thought about it. I think it's a very thoughtful and interesting way to approach it, because in the end, we're basically just satisfying our own desires versus what works out best for them, and I'm or the assumption of that that the choices that either that their families have made or that they have to endure is that there's I would imagine that any question would come with judgment, even if you didn't intend it that way, just because it's so different,
Yeah. And then again, for me, the island was more a place to sort of use, I would say. It's not, but to observe and try to go further. I mean, the fact that it's an island that's on the edge of being abandoned, that was what really interested me. And because I think they're really, in the end, they're really they're really nice people, and also quite normal people that just try their best to enjoy life.
Yeah.
But I wanted this also perspective to see, okay, this could happen. So that's also why I think it's talks about the environment, but not about the problems we have with the environment for once.
Right.
Or the
I think it's a
solution.
good thought-provoking piece, and just it was so excited to be able to kind of have it as part of the festival. Do you have another project that you're working on, or what are the sorts of films that you normally like to make?
I'm toward the end of post-production of another feature documentary. So, and this is completely another subject, really.
Okay.
Complete other thing. It's more about humanity in this case. It's more about it's a Swiss hooligan
Oh.
that in the end found his way into kickboxing, but still has to cope with his past, which is, I think, quite unexpected from Switzerland, to have people get into these big troubles. And
yeah, very much so. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that you have a really cool perspective on things, and just, thank you again for sharing the film with us.
Thank you.